Chapter 35 Shadow and Bone by Leigh Burdogo. Was the Netflix adaptation a success? Is it worth reading the book or better watch the show? What is this Grisha-verse is all about anyway? We'll answer all these questions and more in the non-spoiler part of this chapter. As for the spoiler part, we'll apply the 3-act structure on the story. We'll discuss how specific events were adapted. We'll touch on themes like loss, love, friendship, and heroism. Don't leave too soon though. Not before you listen to our predictions at the end of this chapter. This could be amusing for those who already know what's going to happen. So, turn the page for chapter 35. Welcome to a new chapter of Between the Pages. We're your hosts. My name is Haneen.
And my name is Esma.
We host this podcast together where we review and recommend books for you to read. We divide our chapters into 2 categories, starting with spoiler-free review, where we tell you what the book is about and what we thought about it.
And then we move on to a more in-depth analysis of the book, where we share our favorite moments, chat about the plot, and contemplate what could happen next in the series. And today we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Burdogo, a long-awaited story that we wanted to review for a while now.
Yeah, yes, since the show was out and we ordered the books and they came after a month or something.
Yeah, we're a bit late to the party as always.
As always. I think that should be our motto. Always be late to the party.
Yeah, I mean, there is something about us always being late, which is, I don't know, maybe a good thing.
I mean, only hardcore fans would still be at the party right now.
Right, correct.
Yeah, not fans of us, of course, fans of the series.
Of course. That's most likely. All right, so we'll start with the non-spoiler, as usual, and I think we could start with the summary.
Yeah. And this is only for the people who were like us, who knew nothing about the series or the universe of Shadow and Bone. So this is to get you hooked up, mm-hmm. Or hooked in. Yeah, more hooked in. Okay.
So I'm assuming that most of the people have watched the show, even if they haven't read the book. But still, we're gonna give you an overview of the story of what it's about. So we have a main character called Alina Starkov.
Mm-hmm.
And
cool name.
I love her name.
Yeah.
And it's an unforgettable name. I just remembered it. When I said Alina, I was like, oh, Alina Starkov. Yeah, I remember that.
It has a ring to it, you know?
Impossible to forget. Anyway, so we have her. Anyway, I'm just going to let you take over because I don't want to spoil too much. I haven't read the synopsis.
Wow, me. Okay. Okay, so we have Alina Starkov, who has a crush on her best friend, Mal Osterov, I think, or Osterov.
His full name actually is Malyen, so Malyen.
Malyen. Okay, but he's, for most of the book and the show, he's just Mal.
It's just Mal.
Okay, it's just Mal. So, they're in the army of Ravka, which is divided by this
Shadowfold.
Yes, Shadowfold. They call it the Unsea. It's like on the map. On the maps, it's like a sea, but it's made of shadow. So, so they can't cross into the west of Ravka, and they're cut off from all the resources of the other kingdoms around them. Of course, they have enemies in the south and enemies in the north, and East Ravka is starting to be their enemy. or I think that's in the show. So this is like the world, and like the world, to get you in the mood for it. It doesn't like it's not current. It's not like it's in the past. They don't have technologies. They don't have cars or.
I was actually wondering when it's taking place, like in the 1900s, 1800s. Like you can't really
I don't
tell.
know. They do have guns and automatic guns, but they don't have cars. So you know, it's like it's not كده. It doesn't make sense a bit, but it's fine. Okay, and there are people who have powers. They are called the Grisha, hence the Grishaverse.
Yes.
They are divided into 3 groups. I hope I pronounce each one right. The Corporalki, which is the
Corporality.
Corporalki, which is the order of the living and the dead. They are heartrenders and healers. Heartrenders can control your heartbeat, can stop it completely, make it race, you know. And healers, you know, they heal. And there are Etherealki. Etherealki, which are the order of the summoners. They're squallers, inferni, and tide makers. They manipulate air, fire, and earth. And then Alina becomes one of them, the sun summoner.
Yeah.
And like for them, she's the savior. She's the one who's gonna destroy the fold, and that's like the main goal of the book, I think. Like going on, yeah. And the third group are the Materialki, the order of the fabricators. There have 2 categories, Duras and alchemy. They're basically people who make their weapons, their clothes, like they make things.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. And I guess that's all about the world, their goal. Now we're missing one very important character.
Let me introduce him.
Okay, you go ahead.
The Darkling. Or aka Alexander, what was his second name?
Kerrigan.
Kerrigan.
Alexander. General Kerrigan. And we don't know his name in the book. That's from the show. They named him General Kerrigan or Alexander for Alina. But in the book, it was always the Darkling.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm glad the show gave him a name. That would have been so frustrating not knowing it. I mean, we could know it eventually later in the series.
Yeah.
We don't know. We just read the first book.
I mean, in
Okay.
terms of story, I think there's no right way to do it, like in terms of TV show and the book, like which one to do first. I think both, if you do the show first and then the book, or the book and then the show, they're both wonderful experiences. But I would have preferred if I had watched the show later, or as I was already doing while I was reading, like I was reading several chapters and then I would watch the scenes in the show. But I did that as well. I had already watched the show, but so it was like a rewatch. But I think it would be cool for people to do it at the same time, you know, like read several chapters and then watch the scenes, and then keep on reading and then watch the scenes, because 10 out of 10, the show really nailed it, even though they omitted a couple things, but they even made it better. Like some of the parts in the story were a lot more entertaining in the show than in the book. But anyway, yeah, I think
we're going to compare them like in a bit. I guess let's go on with the summary. So yeah, this General Kerrigan, he takes Alina sort of under his wing to teach her how and train her how to use her powers. Funny though, he doesn't do it himself. He just takes her to yeah. I thought that would be like a recent Farah thing, but no, it didn't happen that way. Anyway, so their goal is to destroy the Shadowfold, and then things happens and plot twists and stuff. So yeah. I guess that's it for you who know nothing about it.
Yeah.
And for people who know the story, like, I hope we didn't screw it up. So
No, I think you did a pretty good job. You're better than me. I would have like rambled on for a couple minutes and would have been wondering, okay, should I have said that? Should I not have said that? Because we hate spoilers, you and me. Like, we
Yeah.
don't like it if anyone spoils anything, because that's half the fun of reading, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So that's for the summary.
Okay. I think like, as we've touched on, watching the show before the book, or like reading the book and then watching the show, or doing them simultaneously. I think simultaneously it is. I think it's fun.
Yeah. I agree.
And then I guess go with your instinct. Like, just start the book and then see if you're gonna watch the show as a whole, or just like watch until the part that you've read. You know, yeah, we do have instinct for these things. But for us, we couldn't wait. We wanted to watch the show until the book came. Like we said, we waited a month, so we needed something.
We waited a long time.
Yeah. But I guess let's compare on like how they did it. In the show, I love that they told it from the third person. Unlike the book, they made it from Alina's point of view.
Yeah.
So we got to know things that each character didn't know about the other. Which was like, we were in the know. And I love that about third person narration. And they did it pretty well. Something that was like, that confused us at the beginning was like, the duology Six of Crows. Why is it like, in the show, the events happen years after the trilogy of Shadow and Bone, like, it happened, I mean. So how did they integrate it? It was pretty cool. They integrated the characters of Six of Crows, but not the events. So basically what I know about these characters, that they are, I think, criminals. They are just humans who don't have power. But they go like on heists and missions and stuff. So in the show, their heist was basically to kidnap the Sun Summoner. Whether they succeeded or not, I guess watch and see. But their characters were hilarious.
Yeah.
They were amazing, I tell you. And they made the show richer, of course.
Yeah, I mean, if I imagine the show without like the parallel storyline from Six of Crows, I think it would have been pretty dull, and there wouldn't have been much content. Because I think if they had done it only Shadow and Bone, I think it should have been a movie and not a series. But because
Yes,
they
true.
combined Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone in one, it's like blended wonderfully, you know.
Yeah.
And it's seamless.
It really made it like a universe. Like, they really tackled the universe.
Yes.
And like, not just the book.
Yeah.
And they went big. And they went home. Like, they really did it well.
Yeah.
Huh.
And tell you what, about when we were reading, I'm pretty sure that I can only speak for myself. I don't know if you did the same. I skipped the parts from Six of Crows sometimes.
Me too. Until they aligned.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Until the events became very aligned. Yeah.
And amazingly enough, I did not miss any pieces of information. So they're still part of each other, but they're separate. You know, so even if you skip the scenes from Six of Crows, or you skip the scenes of Shadow and Bone, they're completely unrelated stories. But they also
are stories on their own.
Yeah.
They are stories on their own. Yeah. And I love that.
But like think about the work that they put in, you know, like to make it so, to make them one piece, but still like water and oil, you know, like they're in one cup, but they're separate.
They were two separate timelines who intersected at one point and like had the same resolution, you know.
Yeah.
And they were like two groups from different countries, and in the same universe, and they came together. And like each had their own journey and their own development. Oh, and the character development, it was amazing.
It was mind-blowing.
They were really round characters. Like,
Yeah.
they started missing things and having imperfections, and they went on and grew into themselves. And yeah, I also found that they, like, with the casting, yes, they had an amazing cast, but like when I read the book, I was like, Mal has blue eyes and the actor doesn't. And the Darkling actually looks quite younger in the book than in the show.
Yeah.
But like, yeah.
I mean, he's still acting the same age of the Darkling as it's in the book. He just doesn't look like it. That's the problem.
True. Yeah.
I mean, they did a pretty good job looks-wise. Like aesthetic-wise from the actors. They fit perfectly, especially Mal. I think Mal was, like, I couldn't see but him in the novel. Alina was a bit hazy. I think Alina started to take a different face in my head in the novel, not really the actress from the show.
Me too. Because like in the show, they did a twist on it. They made her from the southern country. I mean, the country to their south, Shuhan. So she was like sort of bullied because she looks different than Rafkins. In the book, she was just bullied because she looks weak and like a little mousy or something. But yeah.
I mean, I think they added that because of like the racism that's happening around us and trying to normalize treating everyone the same and like, you know, the usual.
Yeah, the usual. Okay, so that's for comparison, but I also want to put this show in comparison with others. Like, take Shadowhunters, for example. They tried to do the same thing. They tried to bring in the Shadowhunter Chronicles into a show, like to have more screen time and like show most of the events. Because like if you've read Cassandra Clare, you know a lot happens. A lot happens in a few days or like just a week or like few weeks. And yes, I think that needed more screen time than the films, but still, in my opinion, the film was amazing for an adaptation, and I wish they just went on with it and not have gone and done the show.
Yeah.
Like, compare this to Shadow and Bone. Shadow and Bone, like, no, they did it like on spot.
Who was the director on Shadow and Bone? Do you know?
I'm not sure, but with these things, each episode has a director.
Right, I remember that. Right.
Yeah, but
it's
Leigh
like Outlander.
Burdogo was like Outlander. And any other show, I guess, and Game of Thrones and Handmaid's Tale.
I swear to God, shows that have different directors are always so much more successful. It's a fact. It's a fact.
Yeah.
It's a fact because, like, with shows that have different points of views. And you get like a lot of creative minds so you don't have a block. Never.
Yes. I mean, they do have the same producers, and like the author was a producer on this show.
Yeah.
I don't think Cassandra Clare took a producer role, I think, on her adaptations, but she hated both of them in the end. I mean, like what went wrong with Shadowhunters was the characters weren't who they were like in the book. They were different people, and then I couldn't watch despite the events being
the same,
like, not the same as well. No, they weren't even the same. Put that aside, the characters weren't the same. Like, it wasn't the same thing, and people would argue that like adaptations should change so it's not like a copy-paste of the book, but look at Game of Thrones. It was a copy-paste of the book, and it was amazing. We haven't read the books, but yeah.
That sounds like a mess. A complete mess. But, you know, take it from someone who hasn't watched the show. I know we've been talking a lot about Shadowhunters, even though we should be talking about Shadow and Bone.
Yeah.
But I tell you that even people who haven't read the book can feel the success of a series or not. Like, the feel of it was completely off. I could really tell. Like when I watched the movie, it was fabulous. It was
So it wasn't just me. Ha,
unforgettable. I still remember scenes to this day.
Yeah, and the music was amazing.
Yeah. But the show didn't even last like 20 minutes into the episode. It was terrible.
It was. I endured a whole season, and then I was
why?
Nah.
Why did you do that to yourself? Oh my god.
I was like, maybe.
Know when to let go, honey. Know when to let go.
Yeah. But I would put Shadow and Bone with Hunger Games, Twilight, like all the like successful adaptations out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hunger Games. Yeah, I wanted to mention Hunger Games as well. They really did a good job.
Yeah, they did.
And they were
Potter.
Movies.
Yeah.
Like
yes.
So they had like
movies.
even smaller room to work with. Just like a couple hours.
True. Okay. Like how we would rate, like our rating for the show and the book. I don't know, on Goodreads I'd give it a 5.
Out of 5?
Or or 4. 4 or 5. Yeah.
4?
Around that.
You should give it a 4.5. Haram aliki.
Well, we can't do the point, unfortunately.
Right.
It's only in the average, so yeah.
Okay. I would definitely give both the show a 10 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe a 9.9 just because of the casting of the Darkling. I mean, something was off. He looked amazing, but something was off.
Mm-hmm. Chemistry was weird. You could really feel that power dynamic, into that relationship.
Yeah.
Or anyway.
And the book, I'd give it a 4.5.
Okay. Yeah.
I'd give it a 4.5.
I mean, nothing could be like 10 out of 10 or 5 out of 5 because nothing is that perfect. But like,
of course. Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you why I'm giving it a 4.5 because I felt like some of the plot that was taking part or happening in the novel was a tiny bit cliche. Don't kill me for this. But
I would agree.
Some of the turning points really felt old school. And I think it's not a bad thing, but I feel like if you read too much of those books, it gets really repetitive. I think it can stay unique when you don't read as many books in that category, Yeah. It takes skill to take something that's cliche and make it new and unique, which is why one of the most memorable authors that we have is Sarah J. Maas, because she takes like a classical plot but still makes it mind-blowing,
Yeah. Don't get me started.
Okay,
as
I'm
well
not
as
gonna
Cassandra
open
Clare, but you still haven't read anything for her. So. Yeah. But I mean, I'm sure like this turned into a universe, and like I'm very excited to go into the next books and reach Six of Crows and get to know the characters in the show in the book from the book. And so I would definitely recommend this book to those who haven't read it or watched the show, or watched the show and haven't read the book. Read the book. It is pretty cool. Just one thing, and I hope anyone who's listening and has the power to change it, is the map in the book. It's so confusing when you watch the show and know about all these places and then not find them on the map. And then they're mentioned in the book like as countries, and you don't see them on the map in the book, and it's so confusing.
Right.
The full map is on the website.
I mean, I'm honestly not really a
author,
map person. Like, even when I read the book, I don't really go back to the map and see where the place is. I don't know why I don't.
Really?
I really don't know why I don't do it.
No. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe there are people who can relate. Or probably people like me are probably like a small minority.
There are these reels on Instagram where, like, are you a map person or not? Like, do you put your finger on the map page, like, and whenever a place is mentioned, you flip to the map or not. I think I'm that person.
Yeah, you
Some
definitely
people
are.
just look at the map and then go into the book,
I forget.
and never look back.
I forget the map is even there. Like, oh, it's like, oh, right, there was a map. I forgot. Anyway.
Yeah.
Already finished reading.
I guess that's for the non-spoiler. So what's coming is all spoilers.
This is the part where we literally go into the story and we talk about everything. So, fair warning.
Fair warning, huh? We warned you.
If you haven't read the book, this is where you should pause and then go read and come back again.
Okay. Pause.
Did you pause? Okay.
Okay, so now starting the spoiler part, we're going to do something a little bit different than usual. Usually, like, we ask you stuff or wonder what you think about something, and like you have no way, or like it's really hard to contact us and like just tell us. So we're going to do it more organized this time.
And more like interactive, sort of, because
Yes.
we want this to be a little bit more audience oriented, maybe. But I think a podcast can only be like audience oriented to a certain extent.
Yeah,
Because
true.
we are talking to ourselves, like me and you. It's
Yeah.
only me and you.
Yeah.
But yeah, we want to like grow the interaction a little bit more.
Yes. So what we're going to do is, if we come up with questions before the episode or like while we're in it, we're going to make posts with them on Instagram and Facebook, and like with the same questions, and let you answer us in the comments. So if you're listening to the episode and like hear a question and we tell you it's going to be a post, you go ahead and go and find it. Hopefully it'll be there within a week, for example. Yeah. Okay, without further ado, we thought about like why in the book it was Mal's idea
To look for the stag.
yeah, to look for the stag and not Alina's like in the show. Why did they choose to adapt it that way in the show rather than keeping it like Mal's idea? Another question we thought about was why in the show we didn't get this moment of Alina like wishing or like asking Mal that if the Darkling found her, he ends her life. So like she can't harm anyone. That is pretty intense, and it happened in the book. Why wasn't it in the show?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something else was, yeah, why did we get a kiss, or maybe, yeah, kisses in the book between Mel and Alina and not in the show? Like, I know it's more intense that way in the show, but I mean, like, you were with us. I know every time someone was going to yell at the TV, just kiss, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of frustrating. It brought me back to like the old days where I'd watch teenage movies, where you'd have to wait for the third movie to come out for them to have an actual kiss. And
Wow.
it was like the time of like High School Musical and Camp Rock. I know you probably didn't watch any of those.
I watched Camp Rock, but not High School Musical.
Yeah, but you see what I mean, right? In
Yes.
the first movie, second movie, third movie, they get together, and then
Aloha, come on, we don't have our whole lives watching this. But
But I
yeah,
think that's how you hook your readers. And for adults, it's not really entertaining anymore. To some extent. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to go back to the old school type of entertainment, which was very surprisingly entertaining. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
feel like اللي هو بالعكس ده حسيت إن oh sorry. I switched to Arabic.
yeah. And I rolled with it, you know.
I'm gonna leave that in.
Yeah.
Okay, I was saying that on the contrary, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
On the contrary, I find it very, like, you know, how do you say it? Not nerve-wracking, but something like that keeps you on your toes. It's like, just do it, goddammit.
Yeah, just kiss. Yeah.
And like this hope that it would still happen,
Yeah.
then it doesn't, and then like
In
wow.
a way, like what I think about this in a way is it made like Mal more credible than Darkling, you know? It's he like their end game. They don't need to
Yeah.
express it that way now, you know. But I guess we'll see.
We'll see about that.
Anyway, so let us know what you think about all of this.
Those questions.
Yeah. I was like the first two questions we don't really like have something in mind, and we're curious about what you think. Okay, let's go into it. I think what we're going to do, what we're going to do in this part with Shadow and Bone is that, like, I sort of like prepared many arcs, arc notes, a narrative arc, 3-act structure, 5 stages of grief, just things like that. So, let's
Keep them coming.
yeah. So, okay, if we look at the 3-arc structure of Shadow and Bone, it's pretty neat, actually. Like, whether it's in the show or in the book, we start by knowing the characters and their, like, sort of imperfections, their wants, and their world. And then the inciting incident happens where they're plucked out of this their normal life and goes into their adventure, their call for adventure, basically.
Yeah.
Which in Shadow and Bone happened, like the inciting incident was in the Shadowfold when Alina showed that she has power that apparently, yeah, she doesn't know about, but like, yeah, when power comes out of her and that changes a lot of things.
Clearly, that did change a lot of things.
Yes, and then we get to start Act 2, which has the rising action until like it goes into a climax, and that climax transfers us to Act 3. But in Act 2, in the rising action, it's not just rising, there is a positive beat, a negative beat, something like the hero accomplishes something and then loses something else. It doesn't have to be like up and down. Up and down could be up, 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 down, down, up, up. It doesn't have to be
Yeah, okay, yeah.
constant, constant. And then until we reach the climax, or let's say the point of no return, they literally lost everything they've tried to do to accomplish their goal or the journey they were going on. They lose all what they've done, like it goes poof.
Poof.
This is when they realize their need. And the climax happened. This is where the show-off happens. So we're transferred to Act 3, and we go into a resolution where the character realizes and accomplishes what they need, not what they wanted, and that makes them as well as a round character. They have developed something and realized something about themselves. So if we put the events of Shadow and Bone on that arc, of course in Netflix that arc goes into each episode, like that's how they write their shows, but they don't go into resolution in each episode. They go into a cliffhanger, like where a climax happens, something like they can't go back from happens,
and
then yes, roll into the next episode. And they're like an interesting thing, and I think we can go back to the show and watch to make sure. Like I had this master class by a Netflix executive where like he explained all this. Like the inciting incident has to happen within the first 15 minutes of the show or something like that, because this is where
15 minutes.
Yeah,
that's not a lot of time.
Yeah, it's not. Or like something like the inciting incident, not of the whole show. Like in the Shadow and Bone, it's when she went into the Shadowfold. That was actually in the next episode, the start of the next episode.
Very early.
Yeah. But that's the inciting incident of the whole story. The inciting incident of
The
the
episode
episode
itself.
has to be within the first 15 minutes. Why? Because that's where the viewers usually get hooked in, whether they're going to watch the entire show or not. Like back in the TV days, that was a minute and 15 seconds.
Huh.
But
A
when
minute and 50.
yes,
What?
like writers had to
But
hook
that
in
could be.
audience within a minute and 15 seconds. That's
Yeah,
what he
but
said in the masterclass, yani.
Right.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute and 30 seconds is a long time for an editor, isn't it?
Yes, 6 seconds for an editor is a long time already.
That's a long time. 'Cause
Yeah.
I remember when you said, like, when you put someone in the credits for 4 seconds, that's a big deal. Or
Yeah.
something like that. Because it
Yes.
stays for a long time.
A second is 24 frames for an editor.
Wow.
So, yeah, we, anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so
But where was the inciting incident in the first episode?
her seeing
Mal?
no,
On the ship?
reaching the shadow fold, I think.
Ah.
And like knowing and know, like we know that this is the bad guy, you know, this is this is what this show is about, sort of. This is where you're going to continue or not. By then we know we saw her as a child, I think, and we got to see Mal and her.
I think there was a moment where the Darkling was on the docks and he watched her go in.
Yeah, that was by the end
think
of the
that's-
episode. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Not when we saw the shadow fall. That by then we didn't know all the characters. The inciting incident in the first episode was when Mal got cold on the ship.
That's what I said, yeah.
Yeah,
When Mal
you
was
were
on the
right.
ship, yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were right. When Mal was called on the ship, and
Because we had they'd already made us emotionally attached to Mal.
to Mal
sort
and
of.
Alina together. So yeah.
So you're like already invested in the character from the start.
Yes. This is when things start happening, you know? Okay. Anyway, so on the scale of the whole
3 acts.
3 acts.
And applying them to the show
Yes.
or to the story itself.
So going into Act 2, the rising action is when Alina gets back and she knows that, like, or she doesn't know, like, we know something happened that, like, put this balance upside down. I'm going to look at that second act through the stages of grief. Okay, so the 5 stages of grief: denial, pain, guilt, and anger. Oh, and acceptance. Okay. So if we look at those stages as beats in the second act, I know I'm complicating it, but it's actually quite interesting. So hang on. So at first she's denying, she doesn't have this power, or like it was a mistake. And the Darkling tests her in his tent, and like, okay, I have power, but like that doesn't change anything, you know. It doesn't have to change anything. So she's still in denial.
No, I don't even know how to use it, so just take it.
Yes. And we go on with her talking with the Darkling. Look, can't you transfer it to anyone? And like him putting her the ultimatum of or like the main goal of them destroying the Shadowfold, and like that everyone was waiting for her, and like putting this huge pressure on her shoulders, and her being separated from Mouth. So that's a negative beat in the rising action. So now she's losing her best friend, losing normal life as a normal person in the army, and like being given this call to action that she is the savior. She's the one who's gonna save anyone. So of course she's denying all of that. I'm just Alina, you know, an orphan. I'm just an orphan. I'm a nobody. But then she goes into the little palace and starts training, starts missing Mal. So this is the pain of losing her old life, and
Yeah, the pain phase.
yeah, that was practically being with Mal, you know. Like she expresses that a lot through her like monologues, and then in the end she's just mostly, I missed Mal, you know. She wrote him letters and she didn't hear anything until then, and like we see her in the book and in the show, like, feeling him around her but missing him at the same time, and that's like quite painful. Like in the book there was this part where it's like, where are you, Mal, you know? And like there was no answer.
That was so sad.
Yeah, there was this part where it's I miss the easy rhythm of the document's tent, the comforting monotony of my life as a cartographer, when nothing more was expected of me than a few drawings and a tidy work table. I missed the familiar smell of inks and paper. Mostly I missed Mel. So yeah, pain over losing her old life.
I think this kind of compensates in the show, because when you have Mal's point of view, you don't have that anger towards Mal, you know, because if you don't know that he's actually writing her letters as well,
Yeah.
which you know during the show, but you don't know during the book until very much later. So you have this feeling where you want to tell her, like, hold on for just a couple more days.
Yes.
He really cares
He's
about
with
you.
you.
It's not what you think.
And like the anger is there for both of them. Both of them feel like they have forsaken each other, you know? But that's like in the anger stage. But like in the pain stage, they both miss each other. And we see that. Like, I love the third person because of that. Like, in the book, we only get Alina missing Mal. And, like, in the show, we get to see both of them miss each other. And it was epic. صراحة. Anyway, and then, like, she starts adjusting to her life at the little palace. Her life of luxury. Not of tents and dirts and, like, quick showers and, you know, of like having someone literally bathe her. What were you saying?
A completely different life, basically.
Yes.
It's the life she's supposed to have because of who she is.
Who she is from the start. And that's where the guilt stage sets in. She starts enjoying that life. And what else? She starts like feeling attraction towards the darkling. So there is that guilt she's carrying
but imagine
around.
how confusing that must be for her.
Yeah.
Like, wow. In her place, I'd go crazy.
And also guilt over like not being able to use her powers, so she can't save anyone, you know? That she's an imposter, basically, this feeling of being an imposter. And then anger sets in. When she starts feeling that Mal has left her and that she's not good enough, like with Bagra's frustration, with people basically worshipping her, and like she can't show them a lick of light, you know? Of being so needy of Bagra and Darkling to like amplify her power.
Right, being dependent on other people and needing everyone's help.
Yes, and then that's when a major plot point comes where like the Darkling tells her about the stag, which starts to give her like hope a little bit.
Yeah.
And like this kicks in her acceptance like of her power, you know, that she can maybe do this, not just of her power, of her having the power to like rid everyone of the Shadowfold. And that happened in Bagra's cottage when she started needling her like in the show. And where is he? He didn't make plans with you. And like in the book, her feeling that Mal has left her behind. She kept writing and writing and writing to him. Month has passed and she heard nothing of him, and she kept holding on to him. And her realization when she remembered, like when the Grisha came to test the orphans, that she didn't let her power show because she was holding on to being with Mal. You know, he was her whole life back then, her like only ray of sunshine, and that she's still holding on to him now. So only when she let go of him, like she believed that he let go of her, she showed her true power. So this is another major plot point, that she actually can control her power. And that's like a huge beat. Like, خلاص, the action is really rising. Like we see a development in the character. now she's completely like gone out of her shell, of the shell of her old life. Mal, the army, her being a normal girl, she's became more healthy by using her power. She started being able to gain control of it. The Darkling kissed her in front of a lake at midnight. you know. So only by starting to forget, she started accepting that she can actually do this, and in doing so, she became more and more deceived by the Darkling and his plans.
I mean, there was an interest, like, in the book, I couldn't really feel the time that was going by. You know, like a month went by, or because the changes were little by little, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The arc, as much as you could see the changes, didn't feel like it was that far apart. I don't know why.
Yeah. Like in the show, you can see the environment changing. But I think the major point in the book where you realize that a lot of time has passed is when the winter fate kicked in, you know? There was something that you thought about that maybe that had a role in that grief arc about Mal.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember the point, because this would have helped Alina more in the process of acceptance, having her lifelong friend by her side as she discovers this new part of herself, not feeling distant from her. Because in the show, we have Mel... No, sorry, I'll start with the book. So in the book, we have Mel in the tent when Alina was being tested by the Darkling for her powers, and he was there, so he witnessed it happening, and there would have been like a facial expression on her face that would have indicated that she didn't know about this, and that she's completely innocent, and she didn't hide it from him, even though Mel in the show already had this feeling that she didn't know. Sort of, right? Like,
Yeah.
He didn't blame her for hiding it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And she wouldn't have felt that guilt of, like, that was very apparent in the show as well, of like, he doesn't know, he thinks I hid it from him, you know?
Yeah, right. And I think the reason why they did this is because, or why they removed the scene in the show, is because it would have added too much resolution, I think, or too much, like, removing it was better for the show, because it made this stronger effect. Even when he was like running after the carriage with his wounded leg, and he still wanted to see her. It's like this feeling of they're being torn apart is much more intense. So I think I see why, or I understand why they removed it, but I think they should have included it, because it would have made such a big difference, because just Mal and Alina are like, their bond is so well and so strong that he should have been there when she was experiencing this new part of herself. And yeah, even though he wouldn't have been part of the experience of like familiarizing herself with the process and acknowledging the fact that she's different, but still knowing that he was there with her in the tent would have maybe comforted her, and maybe even given her the thought of, oh, he's gonna come and rescue me, or he's gonna come and yeah, or something.
Yeah,
maybe.
Like this resulted that, like, in the show, Alina was like more
abandoned.
Yes, resistant to the idea of like her having a power, or like not accepting her power, as in like, can't you just transfer it to someone else, you know? While in the book, like, because of that guilt, you know, no, she doesn't, that, like, she's thinking of Mal, I think. But in the book, knowing that Mal was her in the tent made her later on more disbelieving of the power than just resistant to it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, like, in her, like, arc of acceptance, sort of, like, it was more, what pushed her there was the pressures from Bagra and the Darkling and the apparat, like, cornering her and like telling her she's a saint, and in that moment, like, you know. So throughout the rising action, it was all going towards Elena finally accepting her power. And when she did, things started to go down. Like the winter fete happened, and she yet again learned that, like, the life she trusted and the life she got used to again was turned upside down in front of her because of like Bagra's revelation that the Darkling is the black heretic. Blah blah blah. Plot twist.
So on and so forth.
Yeah. Yes. And that set her into, like, that was the point of no return, you know. She lost everything again. She lost everything she was working towards. Actually, no. That was, like, still going towards there. The point of no return was in the glade, you know. When he finally put the collar on her.
One of the points of no return were in the show was also when she removed the scar from her hand, because once it's removed, you can't put it back on, you know. Although I think she can, right? So I think that was also like a really defining moment, and that moment wasn't in the book where she removed the scar, as far as we know, right? Because I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember it happening in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have a stronger memory than I do, so I'm going to trust you on
that. Okay, so Act 2 ends with Elena being reunited with Mal, realizes she just drove away the only person who has, like, her best interest at heart. Like, in the book, they had this fight when they met. In the show, however, they didn't even meet at the palace. I mean,
right, yeah. At the palace, yeah.
Yes.
And I think that was much, much cooler, I think.
Yes, we were like, when are they going to be together? Like, when is
this tension?
When are they going to reunite? Yes, it created that tension, knowing that someone else was after her as well. Like, that worked really well in the show. And I think they didn't meet at the palace in the show because of the other thing that was going on with the the crows. Right. Yeah.
That's true.
And the plot twist of the Darkling being the black heretic. Yeah. Okay. And that takes us to Act 3, still in the end of Act 2, where she runs away and reunites with Mel again and, like, tries to survive, and then he has the idea of, like, going after the stag. In the moments between them where, like, they tell each other what happened to them and the hardships they went through.
I think the climax could be when the stag was killed.
Yes. When the stag was killed.
And that bone thing was put on her. I think that's the climax. And the resolution is when she finally realizes that she has the power to control it herself and stands up for herself and literally beats the Darkling to death or something like that.
Yeah. But, like, in the book, of course, it's like, resolutions are always bigger than films. And and more like TV shows where, like, a lot of events happen in Act 3 where, like, the Darkling like, shows off her power and what he can do with it, like, and, like, sort of let the Shadowfold eat this city, or, like, you know, the part where he kills all those people. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
Really, the coolest thing in the show is, like, you have always needed me, but I never needed you. And, like,
yeah.
Remember?
Oh, that was so cool and sweet at the same time.
And that, like, moment of goodbye between her and Mel before the Shadowfold, I think that was epic. I don't know why they didn't put it in the show, to be honest. In the cells, like, the night in the cells.
Yeah. I'll tell you why. Because the intimacy level that is in the book is way too high for the show. I think it would have put the people in the show really wanted to prolong that part of the relationship. and to really keep people on their toes and rather focus on the chemistry between her and the Darkling, because it's like the darkness, the evil, it's more like sexy and attractive, I guess.
Yeah.
And Mal is more vanilla, maybe. Not really. He's way more than vanilla. But I think they want to build up more to it, you know? Like we said previously, build the tension. And I think if they had included that scene, and I think not including it makes it more special. Like when you read the novel, like it's like a bonus scene that you didn't get to see, that only we readers know about.
Yeah.
So I think it's a win-win. I mean, it would be nice to see it maybe in season 2. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
Not really, because that part of the story is over.
Like they're not going to lose each other or something. I hope.
No.
Like, let's get to that part in the predictions.
Yep. Let's open that door later.
Okay. One thing we really loved about this book or the story, that the love arc was like sort of a secondary arc. It wasn't a romance, you know. And that made it like really strong. I'm all for like romantic fantasies.
Yeah.
But it was refreshing to read something that was more about the world than the love
story,
relationship, love story, you know.
I think it kind of reminded me of the Hunger Games.
Mm-hmm.
The Hunger Games,
yes.
It did have kind of love story, but not really. You know, like it was sort of
It wasn't
in the background.
more about the stakes.
Yes.
Yeah. And
some of it wasn't even romantic, and some of it was like calculated steps, or because of the public, you know, we need to do this so we earn points, or we need to do that, and then like sort of catching feelings in the process. So it was also like kind of like with Alina and the Darkling, so they had to have this facade for the public, and then maybe like in the show you can really see how she loves the sort of attention she gives him when they're in front of people. Like sort of the light flirting, the whispers, the husky voice in her ear.
a tall man standing in front of her.
Yeah.
But they're both tall, so.
They're both pretty tall, yeah. But I think if I had to pick one, looks-wise, I think I'd pick Mal.
Yeah?
Yeah. Although maybe if he had hair, that would be better. Because he had like a complete
buzz cut. Yeah.
Buzz cut, yeah.
Military.
Which is not
haircut.
bad. It suited him.
Yeah.
It certainly suited him. Not everyone can pull it off.
But when he was a kid, he had hair.
Yeah. He had amazing hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about as well in the book we had less interaction between Alina and the Darkling, and I'm wondering why they intensified that
in the show.
Like
in the book there was no room for them to actually fall in love, although at some points you think the Darkling liked the idea of being in love with her, you know? Like
yeah. He was definitely in love with the idea of her being the savior and being able to control her soon and conquering the world, and sort of like that, I think. It wasn't really an emotional attraction towards each other because they didn't really have any intense conversations. Even in the show, it was all about like her powers and changing the world and saving everyone, and it wasn't like about her, you know, or about him.
Yeah.
Like simple conversations.
And just playing the wounded boy, like who suffered because of his ancestor.
But with Mal, it was so much more of a stronger bond, and that was way more interesting to explore as like a viewer and a reader, to see where this could go, because like someone you can really tell if they have history, you want that to continue, you know, like you want to see where it goes, but you're also intrigued by that other person who who keeps attracting her attention. I was like, what's he like though?
Yeah. Anyway, there was definitely a lot of foreshadowing where that relationship was concerned.
Her and the Darkling?
Yeah.
Mm.
Like there was this one. I think it was after he kissed her in front of the lake. And she was like, when I stumbled back to my room, I fell into bed, my skin damp and pink, my hair in wet tangles. I felt flushed and boneless, but my mind was still whirring. I focused on some the warm wash of sunlight, making it dance in slivers across the painted ceiling, letting the sure rush of power soothe my nerves. Then the memory of the Darkling's kiss blew through me and rattled my concentration, scattering my thoughts and making my heart swoop and dive like a bird borne aloft by uncertain currents. The light shattered, leaving me in darkness. Like things like that I kept catching because I know what was going to happen because we watched the show.
Yeah.
Like things that like that kept like catching my attention, you know, okay. And like Bagra keeps telling her, your power serves you because that is its purpose, because it cannot help but serve you, you know. It's even Alina's comments after that was like, sometimes I felt like there was a shadow in Bagra's words, a second meaning she wanted me to understand. But the work I was doing was hard enough without guessing it's the secrets of a bitter old woman. Oh, Alina, if you just...
If you just paid attention.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes as well was, I wanted to laugh, to sing, to shout. At last, there was something that belonged wholly and completely to me. That was when she finally let go and used her power.
Oh, right. Oh, that's a lovely quote.
Yeah.
I haven't really paid attention to quotes this time. I don't know why, because I had so many other things to do alongside reading the book, so it was...
Yeah, you have a lot on your plate with your masters and all the other books you're reading. I don't envy you.
Which is the reason why I might not be talking that much in this episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I realized, and I'm like, you're silent, and I'm like, okay, Khalin, keep talking. She'll chime in soon. Okay, so that's why. Okay. I mean, I feel like you're afraid to talk about another book, you know, by accident.
Believe me, I am. I'm like afraid to integrate anything that shouldn't be talked about right now.
Okay. There was this quote that you wrote though in our notes that was like pretty epic on social media as well.
Ah, fine. Make me your villain.
They were like, did he just say fine?
Why say fine?
Fine. Make me your villain.
Fine. Fine.
He has this way of like turning his like mouth downwards, you know.
Yeah. And I tell you what, I listened to the audiobook, and the voice actor or the narrator really did a good job with making his voice very smooth but also like threatening at the same time. It was very chilling.
Okay.
But he was also very calm, which is very, very weird. And I think she did a better job than the actor, actually. Which might be insulting to the actor because she was a woman and he was a guy. So he should have been better at it. Because
okay.
in the novel you have these descriptions of where he doesn't really raise his voice, where he's like calm. He doesn't really get angry. He just whispers or something like that.
Yeah.
And whenever he like gives commands to soldiers, he's like always so casual and never really freaks out. And that like calm nature can really be stressful after a while, you know.
You never know. You never know what's under this the layer. You know, his layer of calm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in the show, there was these moments as well, like when he was like, "Her name is Alina Starkov, and she's going to save all of us." And I'm like, why is he whispering to a room full of people?
No, I remember even in the tent, in the scene, the description in the novel, the way he started to address everyone was exactly the same as it was described in the book from the show.
Yeah.
So in the show you have them like everyone's like talking to each other, and then all of a sudden he comes in, but not with a raised voice. Where he says, "Quiet, everyone, I'm gonna talk now." No, that's not how it happened. He's like, "All right, tell me what happened." Like, you know, he's like completely chill.
Yeah.
All right, what's our next point?
Predictions.
Predictions.
Prediction.
Predictions. Attention. So, for those of you who have joined us for the first time in this episode, we usually have predictions where only when we have a series that we are reviewing, and those usually come at the end of the episode where we come up with ideas of what might happen in the next book. This might be pointless for people who have already read the whole series, but it might also be entertaining for you because we might be saying some things that might be completely off track and you already know what happened.
And let us know let us know if we're like so off the hook, please. I think we should make a post about that as well.
Yeah. We should.
Okay. I'm gonna leave you that one, Nisma.
Oh, thank you very much. All right, so we had this feeling of the reason why we came up with the first question is, could there be something more going on between the Darkling and Alina in the next book? Because we thought of why is everyone so obsessed with the quote, "Fine, make me your villain." You know, what is so unique about this quote? You know, there must be some context behind it that is resolved in book 2 or book 3. Let's hope it's 2 because we can't wait for 3 that long. So we were wondering if, because something might not be going well between Mal and Alina's relationship, because we thought maybe the collar could be a deal breaker for Mal and Alina. There was a comment that Mal, or a feeling he had at the end, right?
Yeah. He was like, he wanted her to take it off as soon as possible, and she was like, "Wait, maybe we'll need it later," and like he was off put, you know.
So for those of you who have read Shatter Me, that kind of brought me back to when, I hope I'm not spoiling anything for people who haven't read that series, Shatter Me. So there was a character, Adam and Juliet, and then she sort of had like a huge character development to the end of the novel, and then Adam was really put off by the new her, so basically the new you, from her perspective, and that kind of ruined their relationship a little. So we really hope, fingers crossed, that this does not happen with Alina and Mal. We want them to be endgame, but we also want to know if there's anything gonna be more going on between the Darkling and Alina. So it's like a seesaw situation.
Yeah, because that would be complicated, you know. It would have layers. With Alina and Mal, it's sort of, yeah, they had their hardship and like they sort of like was separated from each other and then came back together and like didn't tell each other how they felt their whole lives. But yeah, in the end, like, it's sort of easy. Like, book-wise.
Too easy.
I
yeah.
know in real life that's
know,
not
I
easy.
know.
In real life
No,
that's
no.
endgame, but in like book-wise that's easy. You know this is where they going to go for. So we're trying to think out of the box here.
Right.
Yeah.
But going back to the color thing, I wanted to think about, is it even possible to remove it? Because in the show, she had it like
she
on
melded
her,
it
and
with
then
like her bones.
yeah, she melded it into her body. So it must be a painful process to remove it, right?
Yeah, and if they chose to do that in the show and not just leave it as a color, does that mean that's not like an important thing later on? And like we're so way off the what's going to happen? I don't
Maybe,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
But in
Also-
regards to the Darkling as well, like in the end of this, the very ending, we had him coming out of the Shadowfold with his fellow creatures.
Follow me. Leigh was like, follow.
Follow me.
No, it
Follow.
wasn't even me. It was just follow.
I swear to God, he has the weirdest dialogue on this planet. Like, fine, make me like, all right, make me your villain. Would have sounded so much better. Or, fair enough, make me your villain, or something like that. Not fine. Fine is when you anyway, never mind.
It's like, will you have omelet? Yes, fine.
Fine, all right. Fine with me.
Okay. But yeah, like now he came back more powerful than before. So I'm guessing
And he was already powerful to begin with.
Yeah.
So
I'm guessing there is a lot of going on. Like going to go. Like, what am I saying?
go. Go to the go.
A lot is going to go on between them, power wise.
All right, so I think I have maybe this idea of hate attraction. You know, when you have like moments in a show where people, they hate each other so much that they're attracted to each other.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Okay.
Because I'm like thinking of what is his goal, you know? He comes out of the Shadowfold with like a whole army. Who is he gonna use this army on, you know? He doesn't have an agenda except for Alina, who basically heard him, not just physically, but his manly pride as well. So I'm thinking
Mal
maybe...
and everyone.
But I can't imagine that he's taking all this army just against one person. That would be kind of unfair, maybe. So his goal is larger. He wants to maybe take over towns and rule them, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or instill fear on everyone and sort of control them.
Plus what he did is going to like make the humans more
Fear him.
more afraid of Grisha and hate them again. So he sent
my
them
God.
back to square one. So there is going to be
Right.
that fight, definitely, of like the Grisha finding their place, of the Grisha choosing between the Darkling and Alina, and
Wow.
the Sun Summoner. I mean,
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm pretty sure there's going to be that.
Well, in that case, I think we will definitely have a moment of where the Grisha people will start to believe in the Sun Summoner. Which reminded me right now of one of my favorite scenes in the show was, I don't know why I didn't mention this before, but when one of the Six of Crows, the lady assassin, can you remember her name? Inez.
Ines,
Rafa.
yes, Ines.
Inez. Actress is called Amita Suman. Anyway, getting back to the point, was when Alina was performing her powers in the ballroom, I'm gonna say, maybe something like that, yeah. And she saw her using the powers and started believing. So I'm assuming that maybe something like that will start happening with the common people, you know, people who hate Grisha.
Yeah.
And maybe if she performs her powers in front of actual people, like the commoners, that she will win them over somehow. That's just a speculation. I don't know if that will actually happen and if it will benefit her in any way, because I think humans against a Shadowfold army are pretty useless. I think Grisha against the Shadowfold army would be better, or more logical.
Definitely, yes.
So that's like a better chance of winning.
Yeah, so yeah, season 2 is going to come like next year, I hope. And we're going to read the second book, and we're going to like
review it as well, hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, hopefully. Okay, we'll see. What are we doing next? Handmaid's Tale or Outlander? Or The Duke and I?
I'd say The Duke and I.
Okay.
Or what would you prefer, Tommy? I think Handmaid's Tale. Thank you for making it to the end of chapter 35. Next up, we will be reading a book we're sure most of you have heard of, a Bridgerton novel, The Duke and I, written by Julia Quinn, which inspired the new series on Netflix. We post on the last Wednesday of each month, so we'll be back soon with another episode. Until then, happy reading and stay safe, everyone. Mark the page for chapter 36.